All right. Don't mind my falling smoke. All right. What's up, guys? Jon Sintes, Cutternation Baseball. Very excited for an awesome podcast with the group of boys here. We got everybody. We got Grant, Randy, Bryan, and Jonny. We just wanted to get together and have a small little fun conversation about the Jedi level stuff that we've been doing here. Grant's leaving today. Miss you. Love you. Randy's leaving soon. Bryan's leaving soon. Jonny will be here with me. He's here with me forever. But anyway, we have come a long way from not only just me and Randy, but Grant. Grant, you walked in the door and knew nothing about us, which is kind of how I like it. Kind of, you know what I mean? Because it's nice to be different sometimes, you know? What were you looking for when you walked in the door? Do you remember, like, the first time we played catch?
I don't know that I necessarily came in looking for anything. I just kind of came in with an open mind. I knew that I came in here for the first time right before season started in 2024. So it was like January 2024. Mm-hmm. I was only here for one day, then went out to spring training. But the little things that we did talk about kind of resonated with me throughout the season. Came back in at the All-Star break, kind of same thing, really quick, but just talked about a few cues and whatnot. And again, took that back with me, and I didn't have, the mechanical stuff down to the point that I do having a full off season to work on it, but just having like the little mindset things and small physical cues to kind of keep myself in check through the second half of the season, I think was really helpful. And then obviously, being here the whole off season and having time to work on stuff and actually integrate the movements that we've been working on into the delivery is it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've watched you grow tremendously. Now, seeing some of the things that Randy and I started with. Bryan's been facing me for years, and Jonny's been catching me too. Bryan, you've probably known me the longest with everybody. You knew Grant, right? You guys went to high school together, which is kind of fun. Also,
Little League.
Did you catch him pretty much his whole life?
I mean, probably in high school, my junior year and senior year is probably when I started catching Grant the most. In Little League, I remember facing Grant or stuff like that, or playing against him. But in high school, definitely that's when I started catching him a lot more.
What have you seen in his growth? You know what I mean? Even from Little League to...
I mean, just everything. Like, if maybe, for example, in high school, if he was just a big, fastball and then maybe a little bit of this and he had a banger, now it's, everything. Like, he has this, and he can locate. So, I don't know, it's pretty impressive to see it. And, I mean, it wasn't that he wasn't good back then. I mean, what was your record in high school? 29-1?
29-1.
Yeah, bro. So, yeah,
I think
that's okay.
So, yeah, I first threw to Bryan consistently sophomore year of high school. And then I was probably 83 to 86, way over the top, got guys with deception and extension and locating. But I think that playing on varsity that year and almost learning how to pitch against guys that were better than me with average velocity and average stuff. Because, I mean, I didn't have, elite pitches at that time. Mm-hmm. It was just I kind of been playing baseball for a long time, knew how to pitch, but then that jump, I didn't play baseball my freshman year because I had a stress fracture in my lower back. So I missed my whole freshman season and then kind of just jumped right into it sophomore year. But I think learning to pitch with an average arsenal against good hitters helped me a ton once I did, put on the strength and learn to throw a little harder, just kind of having that mindset of how are you going to get guys out if you can't overpower them. So I think that's really something that's undervalued at the younger levels. Just learning how to play the game, how to sequence guys, how to get guys off balance.
Yeah, the question you even said, you just brought me to a great question that I know if four of you guys are going to answer differently. But Randy, I know you'll like this one too. What does it mean to know how to pitch? You hear that all the time, right? You learned how to pitch. What does that even mean? That's such an undefined, loosely thrown around phrase, right? Like it's just some easy thing. I just learned how to pitch.
Yeah, there's a lot of departments in pitching, but I think you got to start with some base principles. And that's outs, and that's zeros as far as innings go. And teams would like to break it down even more into count leverage, inside of an at-bat. So if you can control those things, then the things that let you do that just become dominoes behind it, that end up falling into place once you understand, like, that's the first thing. Because I can make big shapes, but if I'm telegraphing it with my body to make that big shape, the hitter kind of knows it's coming before I let it go.
Right.
So that might be, it's a good move, like it's a good pitch, like metrically, but it's not as effective as it could be if it was deceptive.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
It does. I mean, we're huge on video and like being able to show the hitter the same shape,
Right.
and especially, you getting back from the DR, we got confirmation from big league catchers that you're showing the same blur, the same shape, the same timing, which makes you really, really hard to hit. I mean, you hear all the big league guys talk about it, and I know you have access to this too. They always talk about tipping. Everybody tips something, whether they're breathing or nodding a certain way or, they blink when they do something. Maybe they're a puffer fish. I think I was a puffer fish in JUCO. I didn't even hear about it ever on the fastball. I just make this big, giant, cheeky thing. And I remember a catcher told me one time, he was like, yo, you blow your cheeks out on every fastball. Did you know that? And I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. Never even remotely thought that this was in play.
It's all in play.
Yeah, for sure. And that's what's been fun about, connecting with you and connecting with you. Your game is really, been fun for me to watch and be like, well, have you seen this? Have you not? Is this a thing? Do you think it's a thing? Like those conversations growing up were just not with me. And it wasn't until I got out of college even and got into crazy indie ball and pro ball conversations where you start asking some of these, like, well, what do you think about it? Is this a thing or not? Because growing up in America, and I want to hear you guys in this, especially with your experience, and everybody here has a completely different experience, and you've been where I've been, right? When did you decide that you actually would make better decisions than your coach? Like, when did that happen? I know when it happened with me and what age it was, but can you go to that point in your life and be like, oh yeah, like what? I don't know.
I don't know if it's necessarily saying that you're going to make better decisions than your coach. I think it's understanding. I think the key is understanding where your coaches are coming from and being able to absorb and understand the information that they're saying, the way that they're trying to communicate it to you, and not like sometimes things get lost in translation.
Right.
Like a cue doesn't work, or a coach calls a pitch that you don't want to throw. Part of that is just learning the game, learning yourself. But I think a big part of the game is learning your coaches and learning how to communicate with people and learning how to have conversations that are going to be productive and not create enemies.
Right.
It's all about, at the end of the day, you're going out there trying to get outs. Anything a coach tells you, he's trying to help you.
Right.
It's a group project.
It's a group project. Everybody wants the same thing. Everybody wants to get outs. Everybody wants to win games. That's the end goal at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So I think it's easy to get stuck in a mindset where it's not necessarily all positive, where you think that, maybe somebody's out to get you or somebody doesn't have your back. And that's where it's going back to the core values and what can I do to go out there and get outs.
Yeah.
Because that's what matters. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's 96 or if it's 75.
Mm-hmm.
If you're going out there and getting outs and producing, you're going to keep going out there.
I think what Jon's speaking to too a little bit is that there becomes a point where you understand yourself as a pitcher well enough that you're going to come back and do the things that like got you paid, like, because there is a place in the growth mindset where you can kind of get lost.
Absolutely.
Because there's so much data and there's so many adjustments that could be made that it's easy to kind of get lost in that dynamic. And I think what he's talking about is the idea that you can have a center that is you, that is like individual, like, and it's not that your coaches are wrong per se, or it's just like you have to have something center of your exploration, or else you're not going to be able to like have a idea of where you've been and where you're going and what's different better, what's different bad. You know what I mean? Like there's some sort of place in the middle that is you, that like helps you do what you do. You know what I mean? Like again, Pro always say like do what gets you paid, and then like make adjustments from there. You can learn new things, but for me it was like an idea of having a purposeful process for taking on a new idea. Like I would try it on and catch play for 3-4 days, and then I'd come back and reassess. Was it neutral? Was it beneficial in velo or beneficial in my body feel or my finish? Or like, was I getting something like tangible out of catch play? The way the ball was flying was way better. I'm getting more spin, something like that. And if it was neutral or detriment to the overall package, then I would just leave it behind. But that lets you move forward, being able to take on any new idea from anywhere, from any coach, from anything, and apply it genuinely for a time. Still have that your center of like, I do what I do, you know, and I'm gonna try this on. But then you can either adapt it in, like it's the first steps for me of the process of adapting in something like a new idea.
Yeah.
You know, but I think that crucial to that is that core of like, this is who I am. And that develops for me, it was like in high school, getting lessons.
That's what I was going to say, like
Scotty
what
Nichols.
age did that happen? You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like,
I was probably 16, 17 when I started to feel like this is good and I'm doing it repeatedly and I have good feel for everything. Like when I felt like a pretty encompassed pitcher, it was probably like 16, 17.
Right.
Where
Yeah, I don't think that I
things.
fully understood how to like use my body until probably my sophomore year of college.
That's a big
Like
frame.
it just took me that long to
Yeah.
understand how all the limbs move and how everything needs to be sequenced together. But I think the most valuable thing for me in my growth was there's a balance between pitching to your strengths and pitching to a hitter's weakness. And finding the balance between those two things is what is going to make you the most successful. There's a time to pitch to a hitter's weakness and there's a time to pitch to your strength. And that's not just like, it's not what you think you're good at, right? It's actually looking at results and going, what am I good at? Looking at your numbers, going, what separates me from all the other guys that are throwing? What do I do differently? How can you take advantage of that, right? So once I actually learned what my strengths were, which I learned way later than I should have, but that made me a lot more confident going out to the mound, knowing what I was good at and knowing that plan A was going to be to attack with my strengths. And then if that doesn't work, you can always game plan around it and go to a hitter's weakness. But there's a tightrope that you have to walk there where it's like, okay, I have enough trust in my stuff and in myself that I think my strength is better than your strength. Mm-hmm. And part of that's confidence, part of it's having the faith that you're actually going to go out and execute it. Because at the end of the day, if you go out there and you don't have 100% belief in yourself, you're fighting an uphill battle.
Totally. Confirmation is, I feel like, one of the biggest things that data did for myself was like when I threw things, it was moving the way I thought it was. But more importantly, I could understand that when I created particular movements with my hand or my wrist, that you would see the numbers go up or down. You know, so then, like you're saying, like if everybody's saying that these numbers are ridiculous, I remember when the Rapsodo had first come out that nobody had any numbers really, like the public did, like, you know, you guys did, but the public didn't. So people are posting numbers out there, and you're just like, I don't know what this means. You know, like someone's putting a Rapsodo back in like 2014, and you see 1800 on a fastball, and you're like, what does that even mean? What's that mean? Yeah. You know. And then now that we have so much data, you know what I mean? People are like, well, what is it? What is 1800? You know what I mean? Is that even good? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. And then you have different versions of 1800. You got low release point, high release point. You got cut ride, you got sink, you got wobble. You know, there's so many different things now that we have classified because of the data, which makes me giggle because like when I go to the convention every year and I talk to some of these people, the Kinetics people made me laugh because they showed us that of every major league pitcher that has thrown on the Kinetics since I think like 2011, there hasn't been one guy that has repeated his exact mechanics to the exact angle. So, and then you ask the guy the follow-up question, so does that mean that mechanics are consistent? No, they're not. Like, okay, so if it's impossible to match the shadow, if I may, right, the overlay of do it, then what is the consistent part?
It's I think a big part of it's intent with how you deliver the ball.
Right.
And then we'll talk real versus feel. Like I think it ends up being cueing. And cueing is hard because it's only, for me, it's like a 3-word burst at most. And that can't cover all the biomechanics of a pitching move.
Right.
So we're really floating around the move with cues. And we're just trying to get the feel to match, to get closer to the real, because consistently will be off of
yeah.
the real. but the idea is to just keep you somewhere within a range, like close enough that it's deceptive.
Yeah, I mean, like that puts me with you. Like when you knew your profile and you were telling me about your extension and your release height and all this stuff on the TrackMan, that was one of the things that you had said. I remember you said it. You said like, oh, this makes sense. I should be throwing inside righties to set up these things. Mm-hmm. I have this outlier type thing that makes me more effective. You know, and when you know the data inside of that and you get the set of all together, you know, the public doesn't get that. So, you know, that's what I would have been in your position. I would have been scouring, like we have been, all of the data, looking for these people that are doing things differently that might match the same release height and extension, especially when you're taking those things like you're saying and stack it against other guys in those hot maps, you know? The data that you guys get is just incredible, because without the data, the live reading that I know you and I are good at, and you and I have started talking about some of these things, you know, it's funny. Can you tell me about, you know, we had a funny little moment in the DR where I had texted you, like, something's wrong. You know, like, I don't know what's going on. Right? Can you tell me about that a little bit? You know, we were trying to, because it was a fun little interaction. You know what I mean?
You were feeling like the guys on a certain team were jumping me or trying to jump me.
Right.
And I kind of came around and was like, you know, I think it's just that this whole team is on the heater. Like, they're just aggressive. Right. And I'm feeding them, like, off-brand heaters, sinkers, and cutters a lot. But I was getting a lot of soft contact. And, like, I kind of just whittled it down to that the DR has, like, on average, has a more aggressive hitter. And I was, you know, seeing guys do those sorts of things to my pitches, which can be good or bad depending on if I'm, you know, playing with them correctly or not.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that. I remember going down there, not facing people like you, and them never meeting this human in my life. Who are you? What country? I have no idea, right? And them swinging at everything that I'm throwing, and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. Like, where's the conservative? I guess we're just not.
There were definitely guys with good approaches. But it was less of a lineup than I'm used to. And in AAA, like where I've been the most, it's a lot of ABS and challenge games, so the zone is pretty tight. So I think that probably plays in too, that like guys get to have a finer approach in affiliate ball. And in the DR, you know, the umpires are
old school,
not as refined. Yeah. So, you know,
they can be fooled.
It's hard to be, you know. Yeah, they're just gonna make a few more calls in one way or another, and
totally,
it's part of the game.
Yeah. That brings me back to you. You know, with your new toys that people will find out about as you show up to that. How you thought about pitching before and how we talk about it now, right? As speed changes, fast, medium, slow inside of that. Was that some new stuff? Did that make it easier to kind of pick some sequences?
So I'd always known about it, and you know, we've been working on getting the breaking balls to be better shapes and more consistent. For whatever reason, well, I guess it was for whatever reason. Now I know the reason. I'd never had great feel for getting around the baseball and getting it to turn left. Evidently figured out that it was mechanics. I just wasn't fully getting through my left side. Glove was stopping, wasn't able to clear all the way through. Now that I'm able to do that, I'm much more comfortable and have, as Randy was saying, the feel versus real. It felt like I was getting around it, but I was actually just clipping the side of it. And so everything that I would try to throw left ended up just being straight down.
Nice.
Now that I have like the mental awareness of where my hand actually is in space and how to get to the front of the ball, I have that as something in the arsenal that I can throw. At the end of the day, it's still playing off tunnels and understanding your strengths. I think that once I throw those pitches to hitters and kind of, you know, get some feedback from guys in live ABs and whatnot and how they're seeing it, what it looks like, how it plays off the other stuff, then I'll have a better idea of how I want to attack with that stuff. But yeah, I mean, the more tricks you have in the bag, the more opportunities you have to keep a hitter off balance and not let him know what's going to come next. So yeah, it's great to have a breaking ball that I feel confident in now. And but yeah, at the end of the day, it's all tunneling and sequencing. So just knowing how my pitches move and being able to command them consistently.
Yeah, you're good. That's funny because you were talking about tunneling, sequencing inside of that. It's funny, he and I have come up with the idea of the RPO now that you and I play NCAA football. The RPO, you guys, is the run pass option. Yes, pitchers can run a run pass option. It really just means up, down, left, and right. That's all it means. You know, the decisions that you're making, whatever tunnel that you set. For you guys at home, tunnels are set in the first third, which is 20 feet. Obviously, the mound is 60 feet 6 inches, so the first 20 feet are the most significant point to the hitter to understand where the tunnel starts. As a multi-shaped, tunneled human, right, and watching him be the thing that we wish we had that engine, right? What was your experience watching him kind of like come along and kind of see it, right? Because you and I have really had some high-level conversations about the things that we've worked on. Transferring that to another guy is just so difficult, right?
Yeah.
But having them pick up on it almost makes it more fun for you and me, right?
Well, yeah, it's like the thing that would fuck me up about being a coach in the future is like having someone that has the tools and the mind for it and the understanding behind it start to execute, and then wrap his mind around trying to use these shapes appropriately. Because there's one thing to like create them and cue them correctly regularly and have them all be deceptive, and then it's another one to like apply it in real time appropriately, and that's like all that coming together is crazy.
Yeah, and, I mean, it has been fun watching you go up and down the speed.
Dominant year.
Right. The Vader, the cutter, the split, the sweep, the slider, the four seam,
on
two
command.
seam. Yeah.
I love one of my favorites, honestly, is when we're playing catch and you go, hold on, let me try that again, and if it does what I think again, then I have the like whatever I'm thinking is correct. And like you've done that multiple times in here where you go, and then you just rip one with like harder spin and it's like money. Yeah. And you're like, yeah, whatever that was, whatever that cue was, like lean on that.
That's what's been fun for me is like cool watching, the amount of pitchers that I had thrown with growing up that weren't experimental or willing to like spend extra time in between pitches trying to talk about it. Like, what did you see? You know, I'm old, so like I remember my JUCO and college experiences where my catch partner wasn't paying attention, and so I'm trying to get feedback from them. You know, and there's front angles that are super important, right? Like, speak on that a little bit.
Well, I think I might go a little off tangent on this answer, but it's so important to be able to have adjustability and know how your body's moving. Like when you're playing a professional season, you don't have practice. You know, you go out for catch play, you maybe get some work off the mound before the game, and then you got to get ready to throw. You have to be able to have your cues, have your little things that you feel, and know when something's not right. Not only do you have to know when something's not right, but you have to find a way to get yourself back on track. And it can't be something that takes a week.
Right.
You can't just have a week where you lose it and then what happened? You know? Things can spiral really quickly as, you know, everyone experiences ebbs and flows in their career. It's important not to get the highs get too high, the lows get too low, but having a way to get yourself back on track, and honestly having a good catch partner who's going to give you feedback, who's going to tell you how the ball's spinning. Oh, that one kind of stayed straight. That's huge, because you get very limited time during the season to actually throw the ball and work on things.
Yeah.
So if you can solidify the groundwork in the off season and have a good baseline going into the season, know, hey, if I start to feel this, I need to do this, et cetera, et cetera. Then I think you're in a much better spot going in, as opposed to just kind of not having a plan. You know, obviously, theoretically, everything goes great, you feel great the whole year. But there's going to be days where your arm feels like crap and you can't get around the ball. It's like, what are you going to do then? So it's a nonstop balancing game of, you know, you're not always going to feel great, you're not always going to have the best feel, but how are you going to find a way to get outs?
Yeah, you just brought me back to like when I was playing in Mexico, and I remember like trying to explain to my future wife, my current wife right now, like I was just hot. I got hot for like 6 years and like just didn't miss. It was really weird. It was just weird that the ball was going exactly where it was supposed to go all the time. I was baffled by it. Like, is my imagination that good? Am I that good at this that I could just be like, okay, let's bounce the slider right here. He's gonna swing at it. Okay, that works. I don't know why that worked. Now that's weird. But as you grow into that, like you guys spoke on it earlier, it was just like, how do you even know it works? You know, like if you develop a new pitch or you know, you're growing up through high school and your coach is like, you need to throw your changeup, throw your changeup, throw your changeup, throw your changeup. But like when I throw the changeup, coach, it gets hit 5,000 feet. So it's kind of a problem, you know?
Yeah. Well, I think at younger ages, I don't think results are the most important thing. Like if you're 14 and you got a bad changeup, you should probably throw your changeup more. It's the only way it's going to get better.
Right.
You know? If you give up a couple homers, so what? Then you know not to throw it there or not to sequence it like that.
Right.
So there's things that you can learn through failure. It's not like, no, I gave up a homer, I probably shouldn't throw a changeup anymore.
Right.
It's like, actually, you probably just need to get your changeup better. Or you need to tunnel it better.
Exactly.
There's a lot of different things. It's not always just, maybe it's that you're not good enough at the time being.
There's a bunch of things that make a bad changeup.
Yeah,
the
there's
situation,
a lot of things.
the shape,
Location,
speed.
velocity, movement.
yeah, the hand speed, the deception,
Yeah.
all of it.
Yeah.
Like, so it's not that you gave up a homer because you threw a changeup per se.
Yeah.
It's, you know, there could be a lot there. It could have been a great shape. It could have been a nasty whatever.
Yeah,
but
you could have thrown a nasty shape
in the
and you
wrong
could have just
spot,
Robbie
it's still
Canoed
going
it.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, it just,
It's like, how
So-
did you hit that?
And that's the thing. You can't be result oriented. You have to have a process and you have to stick to it. Like no matter what. Like
Yeah,
as a hitter, you can't go into the box with an approach 0-0 and then you get down 0-1 and it changes.
So
You got to stick to your approach.
how do you get a young kid to understand that? How do you get a young kid who's getting his entire scripted bullpens, coaches calling in the pitches? How do you get them to understand the level of Jedi that we were talking about?
You just got to play the game.
for me, it was paying attention.
I think it's playing the game around people that have that baseball IQ. Like it kind of goes back to what Graham was
I
saying.
think
about the
100%.
good- Yeah.
I mean, Brian and I were super lucky to grow up in East Lake the time that we did. There's so many guys that played high-level baseball in high school and a bunch of guys that are still playing. You know, like there's probably 7 or 8 guys from our high school that are still playing professional baseball. And like that's
wild.
not common for
It's
a public
wild.
high school.
Yeah.
You know? So we grew up in a competitive environment where guys cared. You know, you didn't have guys showing up to practice in high school just to be there. It was like everyone was there because they wanted to be there and they wanted to win games. And at the end of the day, when everybody has that mindset, it's really contagious.
I couldn't agree more. It's the most lost thing that you guys know my favorite question, which is how do you win a baseball game to anybody? It's my first question to anybody immediately. And your answer tells me your level of Jedi, right? Like how you answer that question makes it really easy to understand. Like, okay, you know, either you are aware, maybe you're a thoughtful person, maybe it is simple, you know. But I do see so many people that just get lost in the abyss of the complicated. When really, as ironic it is that you're wearing a poker shirt, I'm really looking for a percentage to make it a 50-50 so I can just pick a side. You know, so I'm like, all right, well, I like this black and white. Let's go with this, right? And I can fully convict on this thing. But if I got 7 different options and things, the processing power just isn't quite there. That gut feeling that when the catcher throws the ball back to you is just like so prominent, you know?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
it's a skill. It's reps. You know, it's experience. And for me, I said paying attention. Like, it's like I threw the ball. Now what? It's like, well, how did I feel letting go of that? Did I feel like I was speeding up through that release? Did I feel like I was slowing down? Like, you can keep thinking about it. Like, or after the ball's gone. I actually would prefer to not think about it while I'm doing it. But afterward, like, there's data. Like, there's how the ball's flying through the air.
Right.
You know, what your catch partner did. Like, did he move the wrong way first?
Yeah.
You know, like, even though he knew what pitch was coming. Like, that sort of thing. It's all tells. Like, and I guess I'm old school that I like that better than the TrackMan sometimes. But I think they all just speak to the same thing.
it's just paying attention to the game.
Well, I
You know,
was
like
I would-
understanding. It's if you know, growing up playing travel ball, I had really good coaches who were I would say from the age of 15 throughout high school. Like our coaches would constantly be in the dugout explaining, asking questions. What would you have done here? What did he do wrong? Why did he do that? Where should he have thrown that ball? Where should the cutoff guy be? And then that obviously gets amplified in college. But I mean, Brian, LC, I mean, you have 4-hour practices where you're just running bump plays, right? you're doing all the nitty-gritty stuff that nobody wants to do, but that's where you learn the game.
Right.
Nobody wants to do it. Nobody wants to be out there doing the nitty-gritty for however long you're out there doing it for, but you have to do it. And that's, as you go up the ladder through levels of baseball, the room for error gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. So if you can't do the little things right, if you don't understand the game at a high level, you're going to be behind and you're going to make mistakes. So I think just kids learning the game, learning how it's played, watching big league games on TV, paying attention to how guys move, where they position themselves, like those are the things that can be done to just improve your knowledge of the game.
Yeah, it's been big in San Diego with the Padres having such a successful, attendance and stuff. We see a lot of kids that are getting into that, but then they're missing that. And, in your training that you're growing up, the thing that I really like that I try to do all the time is test the game. Test your own game. Bullpens are boring to me. The process of that is only because I've been doing it so long, but I just don't know. We've all been around bullpen All-Americans that are absolute snipers, but I really want to see how the athlete reacts against an opponent. That gives me the best tell of, are you going to revert back to old habits? Are you going to wipe? Are you going to not turn? Are you going to chase? Are you going to dribble? There's processes inside of that if you do have a golf caddy, which is my favorite part. I love getting, you and I have a great story about a poor guy. One day we will tell Lattimore about this, that you had some inside information, which is just such a funny story. Do you know about this?
I think so.
Yeah, the guy from Australia that I played against, that somehow he's still in the game, dialed up the old no fastball all game, or at least wait till the third time through, because he's gonna.
Yeah, by the time I was throwing fastballs, they were right down the middle.
Yeah, and you had the whole team upside down. Which, how do you not figure that out? Like, first time through, you've thrown probably 8 fastballs the whole time, and no one's paying attention. And we're still coming out G-hacking the second time through. I'm like, what's happening? Nobody is watching the game. But to your point, nobody watches the game. Like, when we ask the kids in here, did you watch baseball? No. Did you watch highlights on TikTok? No. Mom, what are you doing? Like, put the housewives away. Like, I grew up watching the Cubs at 3:30 to 6, Braves 6 to 9:30. That's like 5 till graduating high school. Like, that's what dinner was, whatever it was. I was watching it with mom and dad, and we're just watching baseball. That's my number one piece of advice to parents. You actually have to care about baseball more than your kid, which means that you have to watch it. Take them to the games all you want, right? Those are going to be impactful. They're going to keep them excited about the game and want to play and practice and do all that, yes. But, keeping them consistent on training and making sure that you're guiding them through that. Like, I said it this other day to a parent, that, I have not met a kid that once they start driving, that they stay consistent. Like, even our really, really good high school kids, they're just not as consistent as they were when mom and dad were dropping them off. So, I think it's on the parents, even after 18 in college, it's still on the parents to push. My parents were always asking me through college, can you get any better? And this is 2006, 7, and I'm like, I didn't know it at the time, but I was in the best place to get better in the junior college system that I was in. I was there. They just don't always give you all the answers, They don't know, you can see it where coaches pick a guy and you're going to get the answers, and this kid's not, because he's off doing his own thing or whatever. Only because this kid asked a better question, So that do you have a coach that changed your mind on what you thought it was? That was like, ooh, that might be another version of what I thought, or at least maybe opened a door. You know what I mean? You thought there were 2 doors and there was another door. Where's this door? I didn't know there was a door over here.
I think my manager in AA 2 years ago, Bobby Crosby, he talked a lot about just having undying confidence in yourself, and that was pivotal for me. Just having the confidence every time I went out on the mound that I was going to get 3 outs. I don't care if you think you're better than me. I know that I'm going to win this at bat. regardless of who's stepping in the box. Just having that belief in yourself and controlling what you can, right? Because once the ball leaves your hand, you have no control over what happens. Mm-hmm. But what you do have control over is the process that you're going to pitch and the conviction that you throw the ball with. If you can control those two things and understand what you're good at, you're going to be in a really good spot.
Yeah, there's one more third thing that I'd like to add into the ability to not react positive or negatively when it happens. Like be able to control the focus.
Well, that's having a full understanding of what you can control.
Right.
You throw a great pitch, guy hits a bloop double. What am I going to do?
Right.
You know, all you can do is get the next guy.
Yeah.
If you're thinking, oh man, that's BS. That shouldn't have been a hit.
Right.
Next thing you know, you give up a 2-run bomb.
Yeah.
And guess what? That is on you.
Yeah. Lost focus.
You were in control. So controlling the controllables. That's what my dad's been telling me since I was 8 years old. I had it written on my hat all growing up.
There's one guy that we haven't heard anything from, Jonny. I know you got some questions inside of here, Jonny. Why don't you hit our guys with some questions? I know you got some.
Questions. Yeah. What's your mentality coming into 2025?
You want like a full answer? Or like
Yes.
Personal and athletically.
I think it's just growth. Continuing to grow as a human being, as an athlete, as a friend, as everything, you know? Just consistently trying to better myself. When I was talking to colleges throughout the recruiting process, they were like, what do you want? And the thing that I've always said is I just want to fulfill my potential. I don't know what that is. I don't know when I'll know what it is. I don't know if I'll ever know what it is. But I just want to be the best version of myself that I can be. And obviously that applies to baseball, but that applies to other things too, you know, just trying to be a good dude, be a guy that somebody wants to go have a beer with, be a guy that a teammate can talk to about something crappy that's happening, you know? So yeah, that's my mindset, just growth, continuing to improve.
For me? I guess I'd probably have to say refinement. Seems to be a theme for me this year, just in the way of... Yeah, definitely more diapers coming, having another kid.
Welcome to the 2 Club.
Yeah, thanks. Welcome to the two kids club.
Cut on man to man.
Yeah, but refinement. I think I'm refining some of my routines. I'm refining my diet. The things I spend time thinking about and doing. I'm kind of trying to cut away some of the slack, or just some of the things that aren't as useful.
The surfing, maybe?
Yeah, I'll go back on the surfing a little bit too. Yeah, had a rough one out there this winter, but we made it, so we're good. But yeah, just kind of like I've started to understand the things I need to get done, and now it's kind of refining my mind and body to the point where they're doing them innately, doing them kind of almost unconsciously. You know, like turning the things I'm understanding and learning now into muscle memory, I guess. But in the same way that Grant's talking about, like in everything, you know, not just baseball, like me as a dad, as a husband, as a teammate, a friend, all those things I'm trying to refine. So, you know, clean it up, 2025.
It's hard to not let baseball consume you during the season, but you have to find balance between
having a family,
whether
for me, at least.
For Randy, you know, having a family.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like having a girlfriend, you know, talking to my parents, talking to my friends back home, just like keeping that balance where you're not. If you're 100% baseball at the field and away from the field, then it's impossible to be neutral when things don't go your way.
That's a good point.
If you have separation, then it's easier to fall back on it and say, you know, I live a pretty damn good life. Things could be a lot worse.
Yes.
As opposed to looking at it like, oh my gosh, why is this happening? It's like, well, you know, things are still pretty damn good. So I think it's just having a healthy perspective on life and cherishing the good moments. Because you really do never know when shit's gonna hit the fan, and at the end of the day, you can't control it most of the time. So.
Right.
And follow-up question is...
Hold on, let him answer.
Yeah, Brian.
No, I was just gonna say, I think just going to what Grant was saying, just being a human first, I think that's super important in this game. Like, just understanding, like, you know, you're just a bunch of guys playing baseball, and like we're here on this journey, we're playing in this season, and like, you know, you have to be able to separate that. My mentality, though, I feel like it's just growing, just continue to grow up. A little bit of what Graham was saying, just kind of continuing to grow as a person too. I just think dealing with the cards that are dealt and just playing it the best way. I really do think life is a lot like a poker game and like dealing your cards and stuff. So I just think it's doing what you can, and then this recipe and everything that I'm learning, it's like, try it out, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, like look back and be like, I had a really great life surrounded by a lot of great people, and I know this recipe that can help you out in the future generations. So I just think that's continuing to do that.
Nice.
Thanks.
And the follow-up question is, you know, like you have a plan, you're executing for your 2025 and also beyond. How would you also explain to the younger generations, but as in yourself, like when that plan is not necessarily a halt, but ends up getting backed up, or you feel like you're against the wall, or it's not going your way? How do you feel like you can get out of that and get back into that groove? Like, you know how, like you said, you know, don't let your highs be too high and your lows be too low. How can you get out of that low before it gets too low and, you know, get back into that track?
Yeah, I think it starts before anything good or bad happens. It's going into say an outing with the understanding of, hey, I'm gonna control what I can. I'm gonna go out there, throw every pitch with conviction, and whatever happens, happens. You know, I know that I left everything I could leave on the mound. Sometimes it's not gonna go your way. Sometimes it's gonna go perfectly. But if you don't have that understanding that you really cannot control what happens after the ball leaves your hand, then you put yourself in a much more volatile position emotionally, where you think that you have control over whether a guy hits a home run on a perfectly executed pitch. Because you don't. You know, that's up to him swinging the bat, and that's up to God or whoever makes those decisions. So I really do think it's just having a stable mindset that you can fall back on a day-to-day basis, where you know, all right, when I take a shower and put my street clothes on, like, we're hitting the reset button and moving on to the next day. And you're not gonna bring whatever good happened or whatever bad happened home to you and your family or whatever you're trying to, you know, you just have to keep that separation.
Yeah, I mean, you spoke to it well. Your preparation is more than just prep. It's what gives you your confidence. It's your process that you lean back on when things do, whatever the result is. That's why the results can be irrelevant in a way, is if you love the process of it, the work of it every day, and you're attentive to that, and you're genuinely looking for a little more, then you just tend to do well. So it's like, and when things tend to go bad, you know where to go. You go back to the lab, you press on certain buttons again, because you know what your process is, you know what your preparation is. And when the prep is going well, then you gain that confidence, you take that into the game, you get good results. But I think it all comes back to your day in, day out. Like, what are you doing? And is it giving you confidence? Like, is it making you a better, like actually better? And does it make you feel better about what you're doing? All those things, play into being able to ride out the lowest part of a season. I don't know anyone that's had I've never been in the big leagues, but that's had a whole season of, like, without having a low part. you know, like everybody goes through it. So, but like you said, it's how quickly can you get back out of it. And for me, it's your day. Like, how do you do every day? If it's very similar, and it, you know, there's gonna be little adjustments here and there. I lift, I run, whatever, right? But in the grand scheme of things, your process should be pretty consistent.
Yeah, I think the process, like, I think that's one of the first words that came to my mind. And I think the process, like, the whole day, like, by the time you go to sleep, the time you wake up, like, I think for me, one just key thing that just helps me, I guess, perform better or make sure I come to the field good is, like, just have a good morning. Like, I just make sure I have a great morning. I'm not, like, pissed. I'm not, like, stressed. I'm not, you know, like, if there's something that's, like, I'm probably going to get agitated or something, I don't do it, or, like, you know, like, I make sure it's until after or whenever I can handle it, you know. But if I can, I just make sure I come to the field, you know, in a good attitude, just happy to be there. I think that's one thing. And then one thing that I feel like has helped me through or understand the process better, like, especially I feel like I would think of myself before a lot being an overthinker, and a lot of kids are overthinkers, or the kids that are like a good tip. I just think it's being logical and understanding, like, okay, there are things that you can control and things you can't. So what are the things you can control? And really try to make things like simple, A or B. Like, okay, what did you feel when you felt this? It did that. Okay, try to feel this. Okay, try to be just very logical. Just go one step at a time. I think for me that kind of helped it out. And, like, in game time and stuff like that, like, if I'm doing walk-ins or stuff like that, like, I'll feel myself. It'll be like, just check yourself, and you kind of, like, you're on path instead of, like, you catch yourself really steering away, and then that's when, you know, you have to kind of recheck your whole process and your system. But usually if you're really on your process, I think you're able to kind of stay on. And there's times that, you know, you'll get off, but then it's just how going back to your process, checking yourself.
I think highs and lows are all perspective too.
Yes, 1,000%.
Like, yeah, it's different for, like my definition of a high and low now is completely different than what a high and a low was 5 years ago. You know, like, I've experienced things in the last 5 years where it's like, holy shit, I didn't even know I could be that sad, and then it's like, I didn't even know I could be that happy. Once you experience those things in life, you understand that, like, the little day-to-day things that you think impact the way you feel, like, it's really not that serious. You know, if you go out and blow a save, you know, at the end of the day, you're getting paid to play a game you love. Things could be a lot worse, you know. So yeah, I think for kids, as they get older and experience more things in life, you start to realize that at the end of the day, it is just a game. And in games, there's things you can control, there's things you can't. Once you have, like, once you actually have a grasp on that and you accept it, which isn't easy to do, but once you do, that's when I think you can truly not get too high or too low. And that's not to say that you shouldn't celebrate the things that happen in the sport, and you shouldn't be upset when bad things happen. But it's having just a balanced mentality of how to deal with those things.
Jonny, what's your goal for 2025?
My goal for 2025 is be better than yesterday. Understand the process of what I've done and how I can learn from it and improve tomorrow.
Amazing.
That's it.
Well, we're all living in the present. You said yesterday and tomorrow. Better than yesterday, not as good as tomorrow.
Life's paradoxical. What are you gonna do?
That's funny.
Okay. Last question is, I know we set, like, what's your goals for 2025, and what's things that brings you out of that low, but now, what do you feel like your keynote takeaway of one thing that is your end goal for the season of 2025? Like, if you had to pick one word, one sentence for 2025, what's your kind of your slogan, that backbone?
Growth. That's just like the short form answer of the 2-minute answer I just gave you.
I'm gonna get crazy and piggyback Tito Francona and say 2025 Reds World Series champs.
Yeah, I was just gonna say win a championship. That's really just win.
Chicago
win every day,
Dogs.
win every pitch, just win it.
Chicago Dogs.
Chicago Dogs.
And,
We need to get E saying that.
Yeah.
bonus question is, what is that struggle challenge you're wanting to succeed for this year? Like everybody has that struggle mentality, pitch, way of doing things that they want to get up to that high keynote.
Like, you're asking her why?
I don't understand the question.
Like a why? Like why we do things?
No,
And,
as
the
in
struggle?
like for example.
I think you just asked the same question in a third version. I think that's a decision.
He really does. He's not satisfied with the answer we've come up with.
He didn't like it.
I don't like it.
The press really wanted you
Give
to
me
get.
something else.
Johnny's trying to ask press questions right now. Of course you are, John. You love a good ridiculous.
I was just,
No, that's not how they think. You didn't. I don't even feel like you listened to them. I don't feel like you listened to their answers to the question.
Dude, I think it's like if you gotta realize who's around you and try to absorb information from people who are smarter than you.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of guys that know a lot more about pitching than I do, than John does, than Randy does.
No doubt.
And just trying to be a sponge, trying to watch how other guys go about their process, trying to see what works for other people.
Yeah, I'm trying to throw my cards on the table and be like, "What do you got? Let me see your cards. Let's throw some cards together and see."
Play an
what's
open hand.
Just like
Yeah.
having conversations with people. Like, how did your off season go? What did you work on?
Yeah.
Just growth. And it's not just, you can do that through conversations with people. Like, you can talk to pitching coaches and be like, hey, you know what pitches I throw. How do you think I should attack hitters? See what they think. Pick their brain. There's a lot of really knowledgeable people in baseball. Obviously on the professional side, but all throughout the game. College, high school, there's a lot of people who know a lot of stuff. So I think it's just being a sponge, absorbing all of it, and then filtering through it and figuring out what works for you.
So the same answer, John.
Growth.
Process.
Kingdom.
Right there. All right, boys. Well, listen, we've crushed it. We've been about 45 minutes here. Grant, Randy, Bryan, Jonny, appreciate you guys. It's been a great little pod.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank
Good
you.
luck. Good luck.
Appreciate you.
And
2025, baby.
let's go. All right. Thanks, guys. Like and subscribe. Talk to you soon.